Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on our corporate webinar on developing your IP and startups with corporate strategic alliances. So today is August 7th, and um, this is actually, I think, the 10th webinar in this series. So I just like to remind everyone that if you missed some of the webinars in this series, we do have a YouTube playlist that we make available to anyone who'd like to review or go back to any of the previous corporates that presented before. But before we start today's webinar, I'd just like to let everyone know that we are doing this webinar series as part of the outreach for universities, startups, researchers, and entrepreneurs to submit to the demo day this October. So our demo day is on October 16th and 17th in Washington, D.C., and we will highlight three programs at the event. So one of the programs is the University Startups Demo Day, where if you submit a company to us, it'll be ranked and scored by the Corporate Selection Committee, and though the highest scoring startups will be given presentation slots to present in front of corporations as well as investors. The second program to be highlighted at the demo day is the IP to Startup program. It's all you need to do is submit to us your IP or your patents or your technologies if you're a university tech transfer or licensing office and you want to get your research or your IP um, off the ground. Just submit it to us, and they too will be scored by the corporations in our corporate selection committee. And the highest scoring IP will be included in an IP book for distribution to the corporations. And last but not the least is our Investor Roadshow. We've put together an American Chinese University Growth Fund where we've invited a delegation of VCs from China to look specifically and to fund university startups. So the Investor Roadshow is actually open to the companies that participated in the first and second demo days. So if you are on the line now, if you're a company that got shortlisted or presented in the last two demo days, if you want to be considered for the Investor Roadshow, just send me an email, and we'll get you in the loop. All right. So going forward, we will talk a little bit more about the submissions. So our last deadline is on August 25th. Those of you who missed the first deadline, there still is a chance to submit. So this is, I think this is a couple of weeks from now. So we do encourage everyone listening to this broadcast. If you have a company or if you have IP that fits into the technical areas that get specified in this webinar, please submit to the demo day, and that way your company can be ranked and can be scored, and you can be considered for one of the presentation slots. So again, we are accepting two types of submissions, startups and IP. So all you need to do is go to our website and you'll see the links there to submit to the demo day for October. Okay. And before I wrap up my announcements, we do have a couple more webinars under this series. So on Thursday will be Prax Air, and August 14th will be Ultratech. If you're a university or a startup that deals with chemicals, performance materials, or anything in the material space, these two companies are part of the corporate selection committee of NCIT 2. So I encourage everyone to come and watch the broadcast. And also, another upcoming webinar we have is the Certified Startup Development Officers webinar. So this is a new program that we're launching to assist universities develop their IP, and we'll talk about how this relates to you submitting IP for the demo day. So if you're a university and you haven't signed up, we do encourage you to sign up to this, for this webinar, for you to know what we plan to do with the IP after you submit them to us for the demo day. All right. So a couple of housekeeping questions. So first we'll do Q&A at the end. So everyone has a questions box on your GoToWebinar control panels. All you need to do is type in the questions there. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can, but I do encourage everyone to take advantage of having to submit questions to M Ventures today. He has generously given us his time, so hopefully we take that opportunity to ask him questions about the company and as well as the technical areas that he's interested in. This session is being recorded, so if you have any colleagues that may be interested in viewing the webinars after the fact, all you need to do is go to our YouTube channel, and you should see the rest of the webinars there in this series and other webinars that we've done in the past. Okay, so I won't I won't talk any longer. I'll turn it over now to our speaker today. So today's speaker is Sven Harmsen. He's the investment director for M Ventures. It's basically Merck in Germany. So we've been working with Sven for a few years now. We met him when he was in BASF, and now he's joined M Ventures. I think late was it this year? But anyway, I'll let Sven take over for now. So I'll turn it over to him. And Sven is actually a member of our corporate selection committee. So if you have companies that you'd like him to see, all you need to do is submit, and he'll talk a little bit more about what he's looking for. So Sven, I'll turn it over to you now.
Okay, thank you, Ria. Let's see if we get the technology to work here. I hope you can see the screen now.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you, Ria, Tony, and Tony, for giving me the opportunity to give you some background information on M Ventures, or Merck Ventures, how we are called globally, Merck Ventures BV in Amsterdam, Netherlands. And we are a subsidiary of the original Merck KGaA with its headquarters in Germany, in a place called Darmstadt. I would like to talk today about M Ventures, but before I do it, I will give you a little overview on the history of the parent company to put this in perspective, and an overview on some numbers here. But my focus will be on one hand on the investment side, as I'm leading the Materials Ventures Fund in M Ventures. And also on the business side, I will focus a little more on materials rather than the other business units, but I will give you some insights there as well. Let me start with the history, and the reason is it's always a bit confusing when you talk about a company called Merck. About almost 350 years ago now, in 1668, it was started as a family-owned pharmacy in a place called Darmstadt, which is like half an hour south of Frankfurt. In 1816, and that's what you see on this slide, Emanuel Merck, so still the same family, turned this pharmacy into a chemical and pharmaceutical company with global interactions. So that was already 150 years old. Next year we celebrate the 350th anniversary, so we are clearly one of the oldest chemical and pharmaceutical companies. What is important is about 130 years ago, Merck started an office in New York, which turned into Merck and Company. So it was our US subsidiary, but after World War I, the Allies decided to split the subsidiary in the US from the mothership. And this became Merck and Company, as most of you know it, as the big US-based pharmaceutical company, which is still there. And that leads a little bit to confusion on the name. So Merck and Company is called Merck and Company here, but MSD in the rest of the world. For us, on the other hand, being the original Merck, we are called Merck everywhere in the world except in Northern America, meaning US and Canada. So here we are called EMD, or more specifically, which you see on the right-hand side of the slide. We have EMD Serono, which is our pharmaceuticals and healthcare business. We have Millipore Sigma, which is our life science business, and we have EMD Performance Materials, which is our materials business. A typical question, by the way, what does EMD stand for? It stands for Emanuel Merck, and you saw that name on the slide before, and the D stands for Darmstadt, the place of the headquarters. So when I talk today about Merck, and forgive me if I make some little mistakes here, I'm always talking about Merck KGaA with its headquarters in Germany. And at the same time, when I talk about Merck Ventures, I mean the corporate venture arm of the original Merck. On the next slide, you see why we stick to that name. The company is still owned by the Merck family. More than 2/3 of the company is still in the hands of that family in the 13th generation. But at the same time, there are about 30% of our shares publicly traded since 1995. A few more numbers on the parent company, Merck KGaA. We have currently about 15 billion, and all these numbers are euro, but you can translate it into US dollars, always a little bit higher. 15 billion euro in sales last year. We invest about 2 billion in R&D. We are active in 66 countries, and the size of the company, people-wise, is about 50,000 now. On the next slide, you see the development of our sales over the last couple of years. You see a strong growth here, especially in the last 3-4 years. The same is true with the EBITDA pre numbers, but this is just for your information. I won't go into the details here. The next slide coming up now is more important because it tells you about the different businesses we are in. I will talk a lot about the right-hand side of the slide, performance materials, later on. But let me give you a little bit of an overview on healthcare and life science. So our healthcare business is focusing on new therapeutics, regardless if it's small molecules or biopharmaceuticals. We are mainly active in the following indications. It's oncology, it's immunology, autoimmune, immuno-oncology, and fertility. And from the investment perspective, we are especially interested in new targets, new mode of actions. We also have some business over the counter, and we work on therapeutics in the allergy field. So this is healthcare. The second part, or the second pillar of our business, is we call it life science. This company is, this unit is built around 2 acquisitions we made over the last couple of years. One is Millipore, which most of you probably know about water purification and products around membranes, and even more recent Sigma Aldrich, which is now part of Merck KGaA. So here that means we are offering tools, supplies, intermediate starting materials, all kinds of equipment for research-driven companies, especially in the healthcare space, but also all kinds of chemical research and other fields like battery materials. You need products from Sigma Aldrich. Performance materials, just a few words. Here we have specialty materials mainly for the display and for the electronics industry, but also some pigments, but I'll get back to that at a later point in my presentation. Here are a few numbers, and I won't go into the details of the business sectors. You see the 3 business sectors here. Just one comment you see on the right-hand side, that the major part of our investment in the R&D space is in pharmaceuticals, which is not really a surprise given the large amount of money you need for all the clinical trials. We're obviously a global company, and the sales across the three major regions are quite balanced. This is not really reflected in the employees here. We have a strong weight on Europe, as this is where our headquarters is, but we are well positioned in other regions, and you see here in this magenta color, we have about 10,000 employees in the US or in Northern America, including Canada, of course. A few more words about Performance Materials. So the basis of that business is that we are global market leader for liquid crystals, especially for displays. We are at the same time global market leader for effect pigments for mainly two applications. One you can see on this slide, it's automotive, wherever you see these pearlescent effects. And the other industry where you need those pigments is cosmetics. On the next slide, you see in a little more detail what the technical fields are that we are interested in on the material side. So obviously liquid crystals for all kinds of displays, be it smartphones or flat screen TV, tablets, computers, and so on. We have a strong business in integrated circuit materials, meaning transistors, dielectrics, lithography, and you can read all this later on, but I put this in here so that you have an idea what kind of technologies might have a fit between the technologies you are looking at, or if you are a startup company you are working on. The same is true for pigments and functional materials. Here we are interested in coating materials, barrier films, mainly again for the cosmetics and automotive industry, but we are flexible here. Advanced technologies on the right hand side of the slide has again the link to the display industry. So OLED is very close to our heart, also quantum materials. We are working on lighting solutions around LED. And what else you see here is functional materials, meaning hybrid electronics or electronic packaging is a topic to make electronic devices more resistant to damage, mainly water damage, but also mechanical damage and some other things. Well, we are clearly a company that has a very strong link to the display industry, so that's where really our heart pounds. We have a strong tie to this industry. Currently, we make about 80% of our materials business and sales in Asia, because that's where all the display manufacturers are. But you might have heard about the new display factory that's planned to be built in Northern America. We are also part of that story, luckily. One thing I want to mention on this slide is what you see in the fourth paragraph, Displaying Futures Initiative. This is an initiative we have at our headquarters in Germany, inviting globally university startups to apply in specific fields. Each and every year we have a different topic. Last year it was liquid crystals and new applications of liquid crystals. This year it was hybrid electronics. We haven't decided what will be the major topic for next year. Maybe it's pigments and functional materials. So we invite early startup companies to present to a committee, and at the end you can win about 30,000 euro as a prize money, and which I believe is the higher value, is a mentorship for 1 year to your company to help you structure the company, prepare for an investment round, just structure the business plan. And I'm coming more to the venture side. M Ventures, and that's the name again of the corporate venture arm in Northern America. And we have our office in Cambridge, Massachusetts, so we call it the Boston office. We have two mandates, which you can see on this slide, outside in and inside out. What does it mean? Outside in is the typical venture capital approach. We make investments in startup companies. We are quite flexible in what stage. The inside out might be a little bit different to other corporate ventures. We are interested very early on to invest in companies, meaning we would even be, consider to build a company around a given technology that is coming from a university, and we have quite some experience there to create spin-outs from the mothership. We have a couple of spin-outs here that we got started. We started as the founding and only investor, and later on we brought in third-party money, and we have quite a good success rate there. So this is just a picture to show you our commitment to investing in startup companies and really to work with those startup companies. It's not that we just toss some money at a company and wait until this becomes a success or not. We really want to work with the startup companies, and I think that's the major benefit we can bring to those companies when we work with them, because it's not the one person maybe from the venture side that is interacting with you. It's basically the 50,000 people behind that can help you develop a product faster or in a different direction. It can help you upscale, find the right IP strategy, or help you come up with a commercialization strategy, especially in regions that you are not present currently. A few more words about our venture fund. So we early last year, we doubled the size of the fund from originally 150 million euro to now 300 million euro. And more importantly, we expanded our scope into all the business fields that Merck KGaA is active in, meaning, and what I should have mentioned before that, so we started the Merck Ventures Fund in 2009, but for the first 8 years, the focus was entirely on healthcare, on pharmaceutical biotechs. And early last year, we expanded the scope into life science and performance materials, and we have another sub-fund, which we call New Business, which is further away from our core business. The example here is that we made an investment in a company active in digital health. So we are obviously a healthcare company, but we are not necessarily a digital company. So this is an investment into the future. Maybe we are going that path. Okay, so you see here the same sub-funds again, and this is also for your reference when you check your technologies that you have in your portfolio for the startups where you are working on, that you can see is there a fit to M Ventures or is that not the right fit? That gives you a good overview on the different fields we are in and where we have an interest in investments. Just an overview on our portfolio, and here you see the proof that we worked as a pure healthcare fund for the first 8 years. So most of those companies are from healthcare. Just the last column on the right, you see the new business investment from this and last year. We made one investment from the Performance Materials Fund, but this is not announced yet, so I cannot mention the company here. Well, this picture again supports the idea that we want to work closely with the companies, with our portfolio companies. We have lots of opportunities, even give them a chance to work in our facilities, mainly in our fund headquarters, which is in Amsterdam, but we could consider this at other locations as well. Coming more to the performance materials fund, you see here in more detail what we are interested in when it comes to investment, but also on the R&D side. So from left to right, display materials obviously is very much in focus, and it's not only the currently available LCD displays. In the future, we will see a lot more about flexible displays that you can use as wearables on your clothing or around your arm. And since we are coming from a very strong footprint in liquid crystals, we are of course interested in new applications of liquid crystals. And there are smart antennas. You see the smart windows, which has a link to electrochromic windows, so privacy windows, or you keep the sunshine out. Also light guides and wave plates, which is important for augmented reality, virtual reality. The same is true for holography. So these are all very much of interest, very interesting fields. Integrated circuit materials, the second column. We are interested in all kinds of material-based technologies for the semiconductor industry, everything around electronic packaging, again, flexible materials. And then, I mean, I didn't bring a slide on global trends, but in our world, in the electronics world, everything has to become smaller and smaller. So miniaturization is important. Quality expectations are higher and higher. When it comes to display, would be brightness or more brilliant colors or higher resolutions or quicker switching times. Then energy efficiency is always a topic when it comes to semiconductors and computer chips. Weight is an issue, especially when it comes to tablets or cell phones. And then, of course, lifetime, not only lifetime of the battery, that would be energy efficiency, also lifetime of the device itself, that you can have it as long as possible. The third column here, pigments and functional materials, refers to our pigment business. And of course, we are interested in new pigments, but typically you don't find that many startup companies in that field. But functional materials you find a lot when it comes to coating, surface modification, encapsulation, again, especially for markets like cosmetics, automotive, but also food and pharmaceuticals. We looked at 3D printing and some other fields here. The last column, advanced technologies, is somehow a link between electronic materials and display materials. So as I mentioned before, hybrid electronics, electronic packaging is important. LED, we're working on organic photovoltaic, on OPD, OLEDs, quantum materials, especially cadmium-free ones. So these are a number of words, and for those of you who have technologies in that space, you will immediately say, okay, I have something here, and I'm very interested to hear about those technologies. I won't tell you much about this slide. This is more the perspective we see for the future, which I mentioned on the slide before, like miniaturization, Internet of Things, so especially those technologies that have a link between IoT and materials are very much of interest. I mentioned wearables and flexible electronics, and I mentioned also the smart surfaces, and of course everything around displays, regardless if it's for TV or cell phones or applications in automotives, on wearables. You will see more and more displays in the future. My last two slides, this is always a typical question. So we are obviously a strategic investor. That's why we have a so-called sponsorship model. That means once we like, as an investment team, a certain company and technology, we need to find somebody outside of the corporate venture team, somebody in the business who confirms this is of strategic relevance for us. Usually that's not really a problem. The organization is very open to new technologies. On the investment side, the sweet spot is Series A, but as I mentioned before, we also do spin-outs, so we would consider investments even before, occasionally at Series B, very rarely later, but it's not excluded. The ticket size is normally 1 to 3 million US dollars to start with, depending on the stage of the company, of course. And we always reserve some money for follow-on rounds, typically up to 10 or 12 million US dollars over the lifetime of a portfolio company. We can lead rounds. We also co-invest, so there is no specific demand on our end. We always ask for a board seat, as we believe in the philosophy that we want to work with our portfolio companies very closely, and being part of the board is the right way here to handle this. Last but not least, once we have a sponsor and the PM fund, as we call it, the materials fund, likes a deal, we need to get approval from our IC, which is the investment committee, and we have a separate investment committee for each and every sub-fund. So for the materials fund, the people on that investment committee are coming from that business unit mainly. On the last slide, which is another typical question, you might wonder how that works, how to interact with M Ventures. Well, the first step usually is I receive non-confidential slide deck or an executive summary on a given technology or startup company. This is the best first step. After initial review, we talk with some of the colleagues on the technology side, and if this is still positive, we arrange for a conference call. Of course, M Ventures you can use as also as an interface into the company, so not only for the ventures team. If you have the need to get in touch with some specific people in the business or an R&D function, we are happy to make the introduction. Of course, we are in the lead for everything when it comes to the investment decision. The colleagues are in the lead when it goes for a partnership. And I should mention here we have a so-called Chinese wall in place. So we encourage you to talk to our business people, but we don't exchange information that we receive from startup companies under CDA to our business colleagues. We are in that respect really independent, and otherwise it wouldn't work. Once you are sitting on the board of a startup company, you receive so many detailed information. You cannot and you must not give this information to people in the parent company. With this, I'm at the end of my presentation. Again, Merck Ventures. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I realized right before I gave that presentation here, that webinar, that my contact details are missing, but I'm sure if you want to get in touch with me, you can either send an email to Ria, or you can go on our homepage, which is m-ventures.com, and there you will find the contact details so that you can reach out to me. Thank you very much, everyone, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Sven. So again, Sven is part of our corporate selection committee for the upcoming demo day in October. And if there, he gave a really good list of what they're looking for. So, again, for this demo day, the deadline is August 25th for you to submit either your startups or your IP to us. And once you submit to us, you will Sven will receive those applications for him to review. So if you have any IP or startups that think would fit, all you need to do is go to our website, and you should be able to see the application form there. Okay, so we do have some questions lined up. I hope you're ready, Sven.
Of
There
course.
is a few. All right. Good. I hope you had your coffee. So here we go. All right. So there is a little delay, but I'll read it out, and the slides generally do catch up. So our first question is, does M Ventures provide letters of support for startups that seek federal or SBIR funding?
Well, it's not the typical thing we do, but occasionally, yes, we do it when we see a strategic fit in companies we want to work with or we are interested to invest in. We wouldn't exclude it.
Okay, thanks. So our next question is, how do you engage with companies that you are interested in? Do you work within the timeline from interest to engagement?
Well, how do we engage in? I mentioned already it would be good to receive a slide deck to start with, and then usually we have a couple of phone calls, conference calls, a timeline to give you an idea for an investment from the time we learn about a company, a technology. It could take about 3 months, 4 months till we make an investment. Usually there's a lot being done over the phone. Of course, it would be nice to have a chance to meet the company. That's why I'm based in Boston. The team, I have 2 colleagues here. They are based in Europe. So these are the regions we can cover quite well. Currently, we don't have anybody present in Asia or Latin America, but we still would try to have a close contact and close interaction here. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, so let me see if I can pull up the next question now. Here. All right. I think you have this in one of your slides, but maybe you can expound on it a little more. Do you co-invest with other VCs or with angel investors?
Yeah, very good question. Yes, we like to co-invest. We rarely are the only investor in a round. It's only in case of the spin-outs. Otherwise, we co-invest with other investors, and we are quite open who to co-invest with. So in most cases, it's institutional investors, but more and more other strategics. So there is no limitation. We can even co-invest with our competitors on the business side. And we also co-invest with angel investors. So everything is possible here.
Okay, perfect. Our next question is, do you find the SBIR a good source of startups or technologies?
The short answer is yes. It's a good source. Sometimes the companies are very early, so you cannot say that this is the perfect source for all stages of companies. But I like the SBIR program.
Okay, our next question is, to what extent do you involve the founders or inventors of the startup if you are interested in them, or maybe the startup?
Not sure exactly what is meant by this question, because normally the founders and inventors are still at least part of the management team of a startup company, and of course they are very much involved when we are discussing an investment.
Okay, great. How extensive is your cooperation or collaboration with universities?
Very good question. I like that. Not extensive enough is the right answer here. I would love to work more with universities. And here I get back to your very first commentary. So I joined Merck Ventures last year, so it's now 1 week shy of my first anniversary in that company, and that's when we started the materials fund. The other team members came even later, and we are still in the process of building a network also to universities to tech transfer offices, or however you call them, sometimes to academics, but usually this is something we don't do on a routine basis. As I mean, only in Northern America, I'm not sure how many hundreds or thousands of universities we have here. So the major contacts are tech transfer offices, and we would love to hear more from those institutions.
Okay, great. So, the next demo, you were at the last demo day, so there were, a ton of universities there too. So, yeah,
That's one of the major reasons why we like this demo day, and the work you are doing here to bring the right university startups together at these demo days.
Mhm. All right, so let's see. I think I have a few. Oh, there are still questions coming in. All right, here's our next one. Do you have advice on how universities can align their IP and startups to the market or to your needs?
Huh. Good question.
Okay, that was like a really deep sigh. Okay.
It's very general. Since the question is so general, there is no specific answer. That I mean, if you want to align with our needs, the advice I have is look at our homepage, or I mean, look at the slides that I presented today. That gives you an idea in what fields we are active. And what I always encourage startups to do is, whenever you contact us, and regardless if it's us in the ventures team or people in business, come up with an idea why you think there is an overlap of interest, because you know your technology, you know your IP, you can look up our products and technologies, and you should know best where is the overlap. And whenever you realize that overlap, mention it in your email to us, or when we do a phone call, so that we can think in the right direction. And that's quite often actually that's missing. It refers to do your homework before you talk to a company, and that's very true. Before you contact us, think about what is the overlap, what can we do together, what's the benefit for both sides working together.
Okay, great. Here's our next question. Does N Ventures healthcare or life sciences units work with any incubators or accelerators in Europe? The context would be drug discovery startups.
We are actively engaged in an incubator in Israel. In Europe, we have an incubator at our company headquarters, where you can apply to be part of. I have to admit, I don't know all the details about this, but I'm happy to reach out. If you have a specific interest here, just drop me a note and I will try to find out.
All right, and I think we have, let me just do, I think we have 2 or 3 questions left in the queue. So let me just go ahead and read the next one. Do you need startups to have sales for you to engage? How old should the startup be? Do you have a preference?
To the first question, no, they don't have to have sales. Of course, we should get the impression there will be sales in the future. That's obvious. But no, it's not a precondition for us to engage with a company that they have sales already. I would say it's more, you should have a proof of concept or a prototype of a given technology before we engage in your company. How old should the startup be? Well, that's flexible. As I mentioned before, we support spin outs, so that's basically day 0, as well as considering investments in a Series B. And that can be like up to 3 years, 5 years, depending on the company. Do we have a preference? Well, the typical investment is Series A. That's normally when the company is about a year old. Year, 1.5, again, depending on the company. But we are flexible there.
Okay. Does M Ventures invest early, if at all, in molecular diagnostics, especially as companions for any of its therapeutic candidates?
We are interested in those technologies. If we do investments there, I'm not the right person to comment on this. I would need to check with my colleagues from the healthcare business.
All right, and our last question for this afternoon's webinar. We are a startup company with graphene materials for biomolecules extraction and detection. Will you be interested?
Yes, send me the material. Yep, I mean the material, info material, graphene material as well. It would be of interest to have a sample, but just send me your slide deck. This is a little bit a tricky case as the material is relevant for the materials fund. The application is obviously more relevant for healthcare, potentially for the life science colleagues. So there will be many people involved, but I'm happy to follow up on this.
Okay, great. So, Sven, thank you again for joining us this afternoon. We know you're a very busy person, so we really appreciate you giving the time to talk about your technical needs today. But before we formally close, do you have anything else to add for our audience today?
No, again, thank you, Ria, for giving me that opportunity. I think it was a good discussion, and I hope I will hear from some of you over the next couple of days and weeks, and if possible, have a chance to meet you at the demo day in October. That's always very beneficial if you have a chance to meet in person.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sven. So again, if you have a company that falls into any of the interest areas that Sven mentioned today, if you have a startup or IP and you'd like to engage with M Ventures, one way is to submit your company through the University Startups Demo Day. All you need to do is go to our website and you should be able to see the application links there. And also, as everyone knows, we've been doing these webinars, for the last few weeks. So we do have, a really nice collection of of webinars and webinar recordings over the last, since we began this series in June. So if you missed any of the webinars that we conducted the last few weeks, just go to our website and you should be able to see some of the sites. And we do encourage everyone to submit. That way you get to engage with the corporates and the corporate selection committee, as well as have your IP and startups ranked and scored. All right. So again, thank you, Sven, for joining us this afternoon, and thank you to our audience for spending the afternoon with us. And please check your emails in the next couple of days about announcements. When the recording of this webinar is available, and also about the upcoming submission deadline for the demo day. All right. So thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a good day.